So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to our webinar named Exploring Sustainable Startups, Revolutionizing the Fashion Industry. My name, as I said before, is Stefano Guidotti, and it's an honor to be here with you. Right now, we are at a pivotal moment in the history of fashion, where the choice we make can significantly impact our planet and our society. Today, we will delve into the inspiring world of sustainable startups that are not just envisioning, but actively creating a more sustainable future for all fashion. Before introducing our guest, I'd like to discuss the current state of fashion, the fashion industry. Why the industry has long been celebrated for its creativity and innovation, it has also been a major contributor to environmental degradation and social inequalities. Many fashion brands, both big and small, have made ambitious public commitments to creating more sustainable apparel by 2030. However, keeping the pace with their decarbonization commitments has been a challenge so far across all the industry. And as you can see in this slide, 3 to 8% of the total greenhouse gas emission can be attributed to the global fashion industry. And the industry's emissions are expected to increase by about 30% by 2030. 20% of brands have seen their emission intensity increase, and just 30% of companies are on track to reach their 2030 decarbonization goal. Moreover, it's interesting to notice how investing 1-2% of the average company's revenues could enable most fashion brands to reduce their greenhouse gas emission by more than 60%. These figures highlight the urgent need for renewed action. And that's why we have identified cost-effective strategies that can accelerate decarbonization, focusing on 2 main areas, which will be greatly addressed by our guests later on today. At first, as you can see on the left, a change in material sourcing is essential. Fashion business, in fact, rely heavily on fossil-fueled energy in primary manufacturing countries. Transforming fibers into garments account for about 70% of emissions, with most coming from fabric production, especially dyeing and wet processing and fiber production. Innovative green materials, including cotton replacement, recycled materials, and bio-based leather alternatives, are becoming more and more widely available at a lower cost. These promising materials require no minimal compromise in performance and little, if any, additional cost once the supply will scale. Anyway, using green materials also helps create more commercial value and develop cost efficiency. On the right side of the slide, instead, we can see how the fashion industry lacks of sufficient supply chain transparency. This will make necessary to improve the data granularity. Access to reliable data is essential for fashion businesses to progress in their decarbonization journeys, and complying with sustainability regulation provide an accurate sustainability information to consumers. Brands should move from industry average data to primary data, offering more precise and brand-specific insight about emission baselines, levers, and progress. This will require partnership with leading traceability and impact measurement providers and close collaboration with suppliers. For all these reasons, we believe the innovation is the key. Today, we have trailblazing startups at the forefront of this revolution. Please let me introduce you to FiliPari, the ID Factory and Aktio, along with Francesca from Team P. I'll let you guys introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Alice Zantedeschi, co-founder of FiliPari. We are an innovative startup and we work in the textile industry using a very particular material and unconventional, that is marble. Nice to meet you all. I'm Martina from the ID Factory. I work for a supply chain traceability solution provider as head of sustainability, and I'm happy to share with you a concrete case study of supply chain traceability in the fashion industry today.
Hi everyone, I'm Laurent Barbezieux, so one of the co-founders of Aktio, and Aktio, we are a platform dedicated to decarbonization of companies. So we help companies measure their carbon emissions and define their carbon trajectory, and we've worked with several retail and textile companies.
Okay, thank you very much. So now let me spend a few words on TMP. TMP is our company, and as you know, is a European consulting firm that assists leaders in their strategic, operational, digital, and regulatory transformation. We aspire to become the leading independent consultancy in Europe, Africa, and India in the Middle East region by 2030. As of today, we have among 1,000 consultants worldwide. We are operating in 4 different regions, mainly Europe, with our office in Paris, Lyon, Marseille, Monaco, Luxembourg, Milan, Geneva, Frankfurt, and Bilbao. In North and West Africa, in Morocco with Casablanca, Tunisia, and in Abidjan. We are also active in India and Middle East with our office in Cochin, Mumbai, Delhi, and Dubai, and finally our new office in Philadelphia, United States. Right now, we have more than 25 current missions, 25 active countries with different missions. We work both on the operational excellence. In fact, we're able to support our client in identify process optimization levers and produce tangible results. In the meanwhile, we are really good also. We have strong skill as digital accelerator, and we allow to build innovative digital solution in order to boost our client performance. In TMP, we are multi-specialist. We work in different industries, as you can see in this slide. What we really want to focus today, of course, is the fashion, so the part of industry and services. As you can see, we have different competencies in order of strategy, business excellence, regulatory transformation, specifically sustainability, our digital advisory part, our business transformation program and cybersecurity, and finally, all our digital transformation and solution. Clearly, we want to focus on our sustainability sector. We are operating in 5 different areas, covering all the strategy part, the operational excellence, the governance and optimization, the data and IT part, and finally, again, the regulatory and risk. We love to provide end-to-end support, and we have different partners who can support you and the clients in all kind of a 360 degree.
So, hello everyone. Before moving on with the pitches of our 3 guest speakers, I will quickly provide you with a snapshot on new technologies and how sustainability is becoming an imperative both for consumers and customers. And additionally, how the, let's say, European regulatory landscape is reshaping the industry for both consumers and businesses. So clearly, we can say an increasing adoption of advanced technologies for companies like blockchain and RFID to enhance traceability in their supply chain. And these technologies, let's say, ensure that every step from raw material sourcing till final product delivery are transparent and accountable. And by providing consumers with the ability to trace all the steps of the value chain, brands can build trust and authenticity. Also, we can see an increasing integration of ethical labor practices and carbon footprint reduction in the supply chains of fashion brands, with a desire to mitigate, let's say, the traditional effects caused by traditional fashion supply chains. And advanced manufacturing technologies and also renewable energy sources and new innovative materials are being used along the whole supply chain. Furthermore, circular economy strategies are being embraced by many brands, like recycling, repairing initiatives, and also, let's say, designing products for durability. Furthermore, in addition to that, we can see that we are navigating a stringent regulatory framework from the European Union. And this is impacting, let's say, all the initiatives carried out by brands to be, let's say, in compliance with the corporate social responsibility. Another trend worth mentioning is that top talents are increasingly navigating towards sustainable companies that prioritize environment over and social responsibility. A quick snapshot on, let's say, how sustainability is becoming a strategic focus for both companies and customers. In line with the trends just mentioned, we can see that both at Italian and global level, the CEOs are increasingly prioritizing sustainability and climate change among, let's say, the top priorities for their strategies. In fact, in the left pie chart, you can see that generally we have an increase in the sustainability investments, both at Italian and global level over the last year. Meanwhile, on the flip side of the coin, we can also see that consumers are demanding for, let's say, more responsible brands, and they are becoming more conscious about these topics. So we have found that specifically the 63% of consumers are considering in their purchasing decision, let's say, as priority brands promotion of sustainability. Last but not least, as I was mentioning before, we are seeing more and more stringent standards on European regulation that are reshaping the industry. Just to mention some, we have the European Green Deal, an ambitious plan transforming Europe, let's say, into a more climate neutral economy and more sustainable. This deal is promoting carbon neutrality and the usage of sustainable material. Then we have some initiatives for, let's say, comprehensive disclosure of emissions. The product environmental footprint, the PEF, aims to measure and communicate the entire life cycle and environmental impact of the products. Then we have also stricter criteria for product labeling. Actually, the EU Eco-Label, that is a voluntary environmental labeling scheme that was launched back in 1992 by the European Union, is pushing a lot, aiming to help consumers, retailers, and businesses make sustainable choices by identifying, let's say, products that meet the ecological criteria. Worth mentioning is also that we have an increasing number of also initiatives to support small and medium enterprises like S4 Fashion, that is crucial for empowering small, medium-sized enterprises to introduce, let's say, in their business model, new sustainable and circular products and services. So that was, let's say, a quick snapshot on how the fashion landscape is being, let's say, revolutionized by trends and also regulation. And before leaving the stage to our first guest speaker, that is Alice, co-founder at FiliPari, I would just quickly ask you to answer a question. That is, how can the use of marble as an innovative raw material contribute to the sustainability of the fashion industry? This will introduce the picture of Alice. So you can see below and in the polls section the options. A is by reducing the use of non-renewable natural resources. B is by improving the durability and longevity of products. C is by promoting material circularity through the recycling of marble waste. And D, all of the above. Then I will let Alice comment and introduce her speech.
Hello. The correct answer in this case is all of the above. And I will introduce you why. And I'm Alice, co-founder of FiliPari, and we are an innovative startup, fashion tech, and we want to bring innovation and sustainability in textile world. and we do with a very particular and unique material, a natural one and typical of the Italian peninsula, that is marble. Since ancient time, marble was used in art, architecture, design, and represent a very unique symbol of made in Italy in the world. But in the textile industry, was never been used and was just only an aesthetic inspiration, reproducing the vein through the print on the fabric. We create a synergy between two different districts. From one side, the stone district, from the other side, the textile district. And we connect these two each other using the leftovers of the stone district as a new raw material for fabrics. And this kind of fabrics and material can be used in a very many applications in a circular economy view. The first material that we develop is branded Marmor, and it's a coating on fabric that uses real marble powder inside, and it's a more sustainable, bio-based and vegan solution for textile. Marble is inside the material and give a very unique aesthetic effect and technical performances, and it's the very first material in the world that uses marble in fabric. The composition is based on two layers. The marble is on the top that give unique aesthetic and technical performances. And on the bottom, we have a fabric that could be natural or recycled fabrics. And that is coupled with marble. The material is 100% solvent-free and have several technical performances. It's waterproof, windproof, abrasion-resistant, and very soft to the touch. Here, a few ideas of application. The material could be used in apparel, accessories, automotive, footwear, and interior. The material has several advantages. The production uses existing machinery. It's very scalable. The material is patented and covered by trademark. It's very versatile and already industrialized, so we are able to produce a lot of meters for each client. The other material that we develop, it's mineral dye, and it's an innovative yarn dyeing process with a low water impact that use marble powder and minerals as totally natural pigments to color the yarn. Respect common dyeing process, we use between 1 and 20 liters for each kilos of yarn. In the common technique, usually you need 150 liters for each kilos. So with our solution, we are able to dye yarn for apparel, lining, interior, and the color are completely natural, very high on color fastness and washing, and the production is totally made in Italy and very scalable and versatile because we start with just 6 kilos up to big production. So FiliPari aims to become a protagonist in the use of stone and mineral in textile industry, starting with these two material and technique. This is our team. We are all females, and these are a few contests and European awards that we won in this year. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Alice. Now, moving on, I will introduce with another question our second panelist. This is Martina, Head of Sustainability at the ID Factory. And I will ask the following question. Which is the percentage of fashion brands that disclose information about their first-year manufacturers? As before, you can find it in the poll section. The answers can be 34%, 52%, 27%, and 70%.
I wait a few seconds for everyone to answer. I see 10 votes, and the winning percentage is still lightly changing. I see the majority of people quote for 27%. I'm happy to say that it's quite higher. $15 votes. Right now, we see the majority of people are voting for 52%. And I think, Francesca, we can share the right answer.
Yes, yes.
And that's right. So the majority today of brands disclose information about their first-year manufacturer. I have to say that it seems to be encouraging as a number, but the reality is that if we look at the brands that are disclosing information about the raw material suppliers, today it's only 12%. And when I started working in this industry, I think it was 1 or 2%. Plus consider that this data is based on the Fashion Revolution Transparency Index, and there is around 40% of brands of the top 250 apparel brands that do not reply to the questionnaire. So we're still lacking a lot of people, a lot of companies, important companies on the table in this conversation. And we still are not able, when we speak and when we talk about supply chain traceability, to actually engage the suppliers on the ground. So that's why I'm happy to present you today the ID Factory. So the ID Factory is a supply chain traceability platform, and we are part of a larger holding called YAB. We as the ID Factory represent the supply chain traceability solution, while the other companies work on all what concern the supply chain impact assessment. The word sustainability, traceability, and transparency somehow are used differently, but the reality is that we are never going to be able to become sustainable if we don't structure a traceability process that directly engages the suppliers on stage. At the same time, we're never going to be sustainable if we're not able to transparently share this information about the supply chain. So as a group, we try to work on these 3 pillars: traceability, transparency, and sustainability. Where the ID Factory is the traceability and transparency solution, and Impact, the process factory, and for sustainability work together with the fashion brands on supporting them on all what concern the impact assessment and the reporting of the impact assessment for defining an improvement roadmap. But long story short, I'm going to go straight presenting you what, let's say, the market we cover today as a group. We work with 56 brands already. We are vertical in the fashion and footwear industry with brands like Tommy Hilfiger, Hugo Boss, North Sales, Tamaris, Estée Oliver, Rinascimento, Terranova, and many others that have decided to work with our solution for our software as a service solution to support their suppliers in this, let's say, traceability journey. Over 22 different countries, over 3,000 suppliers engaged daily that use our collaborative platform, and overall, over 80,000 suppliers have been mapped and are part of our database. The ID Factory is a supply chain traceability platform, but the reality, what is a supply chain traceability platform about, and why we do need supply chain traceability platform? As I mentioned at the beginning, there is very low transparency and traceability when we want to go very back and down the different supply chain tiers. Today, the majority of fashion brands have visibility on their direct suppliers, but they have no visibility on the suppliers of their suppliers. We are seeing it in the news, large corporate fashion brands, luxury brands as well, are today having troubles when it comes to assessing the social environmental performance and, let's say, reporting on the performance of their indirect suppliers. So our core is to use a technological solution to make this communication between the different supply chain tiers possible. That's why I want to present you a concrete case study. And again, we outlined before the different legislation that are out there that are making that increasingly demanding, but also mandatory for the brand to report on their supply chain. And also because I want to stress one key point, is that there's never going to be sustainability without traceability and transparency in place, even because the majority of the impact happens at the first stage of the supply chain. So over 90% of the environmental impact of the product is related to where the material has been, the cotton field or the animal has been breathed. And that's why we need to create and strengthen these tiers, this communication between the different tiers of the supply chain. The case study I want to present you today is the collaboration we kick off with Tommy Hilfiger back in 2020. The major need of Tommy was actually to gain control and visibility, not on their direct suppliers, because they know their direct suppliers, but about the subcontractors and the supplier with which their suppliers were working. Thinking about global operations, thinking about big corporates that work globally, that's quite difficult to have visibility real time every day on what is happening. Having control on which material is used on the product and knowing exactly when it's shipped from where to where. This problem, of course, is something that has been shared by the majority of fashion players globally, and COVID has made it even more serious because there were increasing issues on knowing what was the situation to be handled in different companies as well. And then in 2023, the French authorities have defined a legislation that requires to transparently share this information on the product as well. So from traceability to transparency. If before traceability was about control, today it's about gaining control for being confident to share the information on the product outside. In this journey for years, we were able to engage 57 suppliers, tier 1 suppliers, and over 170 second tier suppliers in over 10 different countries. These suppliers are working daily on our platform, plus different other suppliers are all engaged indirectly from the same supplier, from these suppliers. It's a learning by doing process. We started from the leather segment, the leather cluster, directly engaging the material suppliers to the tanneries in these countries. And then we continued progressively tracking and tracing different materials and components, fabric, PU, accessory, outsole, insole, for footwear products as well that are very complex as a whole. In 2022, we piloted the digital product passport. So as a solution to share on the product the information we've been collecting for more than the 4 years with the relative suppliers. That's why I want to share with you the digital product passport. The first pilot we launched in 2022, where on the product, by simply scanning a QR code inside the product, it was possible to see the factories that were actually producing that item. Why is that important and why traceability is useful? There are several benefits. First of all, being able to gain control over your supply chain, keep track on the performance, not only for direct suppliers, but going down up to the tier 4 suppliers, reduce all what is linked to the data entry, because today fashion brands are continually trying to keep track of what is happening. The suppliers collecting certificates using different spreadsheets. So the objective is to have a structured, integrated system to collect all this information in one single place, and optimizing costs and also reducing the risks. Last, I just want to invite you to our upcoming webinar next week, the 4th of June, where we're going to provide a concrete example of how to structure the data collection for a specific legislation, which is the UFLPA, that require for companies that are importing cotton in the United States to provide all this information about the origin of the cotton. Especially now that just last week was approved, the legislation, the forced labor, is always more demanding, not only to just provide documents, but providing evidence that a due diligence process has been implemented in the supply chain for fashion and apparel items. Thank you, everyone. You can simply scan the QR code to register to our webinar.
Thank you a lot, Martina. I will move on with our last speakers, and actually I will ask you the last question to introduce the pitch of Laurent from Aktio. That is the following: which is the percentage of fashion brands that publish their annual value chain Scope 3 carbon footprint? You have the question in the poll section. The options are 34%, 43%, 56%, or 62%. And I will leave Laurent to comment on the results.
Okay, hi everyone. So I see it's still a bit moving. I give it a couple of seconds. So we have 15 votes. Okay, well, so 15 votes, and we have 43% of the people, so almost half of the people, saying it was the first answer. So 35% of the companies publishing their annual carbon footprint. Actually, it's a bit better. It's 43% of companies measuring the Scope 3 emissions. What this means is that more than the majority of the companies don't have any clue of their carbon footprint. So they are blind regarding where they have an impact and on what they can act to reduce their emissions, because most of the emissions are in your value chain and not just inside your company. So that's the challenge that we're trying to address with Aktio. So we are building a SaaS platform, and we also have in-house consultants to help companies measure their carbon emissions. So why is it important? Well, first, we have a climate emergency, so we do have climate change, and we have to address that. And what we see is that companies, they have more and more customer requests. Either you're on B2C and you have your clients, they want to know the impact of your product, your apparel, your shoes. Okay, what's the impact? Is there a product that is better than the other one? And if you're not facing the end customer and you are a bit earlier in the value chain, what we see is that you have more and more client requests in B2B, in RFPs, asking, okay, what is the carbon footprint of your company, of this product, because I want to be able to compare my suppliers and choose the best solution. So that's now a pressing issue for companies. That's obviously an issue regarding brand image and employer brand. If you want to hire people that are engaged, well, then you have to do something regarding your on climate and have a strategy on that. What we see for the past 2 years, especially due to regulation in Europe, is that you have much more pressure for investors, either banks or investment funds. Now we have banks, they have the interest rate of your debt depending on your ESG commitments. And if you perform well, you pay less interest. If you don't perform as well as expected, you pay more. And we have all the regulation that were already mentioned, for the whole company and more specifically on fashion. And the thing is, today, companies, they don't really have the tools and skills to reduce their carbon emissions, actually. So that's not specific to fashion, but that's particularly the case in fashion because the value chain is so much specialized with each step of the production process. So we have more and more reporting requests. I've already mentioned them. And what we see is inside the companies, we don't really have a real governance on climate. You might have the ESG function, but they are not the ones with the actual levers to collect the data and act on them. You don't have enough expertise in general because those topics are quite new and there are not enough people trained, well, all across Europe and in the world on those topics. And if you want to have a complete picture of your emissions and reduce them, then you have data all across the company and all across your value chain. So that's quite hard to work on them. And today, the way we work is basically we have Excel in-house, or we work with consultants and they use Excel. And we have more and more ESG softwares, actually, which is good news. But in general, they are quite limited on scope 3, so the collection of data for your suppliers. And they don't have much carbon trajectory capabilities. But what they lack on this part, well, they provide with a broader scope. For instance, when you go beyond carbon and you go in the social part, they might have interesting functionalities. So what we are doing with Aktio is basically we're building a platform that is used by companies for ESG managers, sustainability managers, so they can, well, have a management tool and act on that. And it's also a tool used by what we call carbon professionals, so typically consultants. Sometimes carbon professionals can be people inside the company because they are trained in eco-design, carbon footprint. But honestly, that's not at all the majority of the companies. And actually, you need both. You need people to act on the data, and you need people with deep expertise on carbon to be sure that the data is right. So we're doing a platform for both. So what we have is basically we both have a software and some services. So the software, it's basically a full suite where you can collect data within your company, with your suppliers, and calculate your scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. So for instance, you can request information from hundreds of sites if you have like a lot of boutiques across the country, or to hundreds of suppliers if you want to get accurate data from suppliers across the world. And then we also have what we call an action plan library, because a lot of topics, actually all the companies will have to do the same to some extent to reduce their emissions. You have like the low-hanging fruits, electrify your fleet, renovate your buildings, think about changing your packaging. So we have hundreds of actions that you've already put in the platform so that we all save time. And then we work on customizing and adapting them to your specific organization, because that's where the value is. And then you can model your action plan and define your carbon trajectory and say, okay, if we change the packaging from this to that, what is the impact in terms of carbon? If we change logistics and from this supplier to this supplier, what is the impact, etc. And the final step is actually, for a lot of topics, you need more expertise. I don't know what is the optimal path to electrify your trucks. Well, actually, you have companies specialized in that who can provide financing, who can have some interesting leasing and contracting schemes. So we try to map those players and put you in contact with them. So that's the SaaS platform. And as you can guess, it's not just about the software. It's a lot about working together. So we have partners, like we've worked with TNP, for instance, or we can work directly with our client, typically to support data collection, to define a carbon trajectory, which is then validated by an international body, which is called SBTi, Science-Based Target. We also work on product carbon footprint at the product level. And we have companies trying to measure how much emissions they avoid. So let's say you're a second-hand producer of apparel. Well, basically, you're avoiding production of new clothes. So you're avoiding emissions. So that's the type of calculation that you can perform and then communicate on your customers on the environmental value of the second-hand service that you're providing. So we've done that on clothes and furniture, for instance. So overall, what we offer is we reduce costs, because since we streamline the process, we have a SaaS platform. Well, typically it's 4 times less expensive than working with a typical consultant. We help you have a tool that is much easier to use than an Excel. And we empower the teams we're working with, because our vision is on the long run, companies will have to do most of the work in-house, because it's just faster and less expensive than hiring consultant to do so. And we also help you communicate and ensure that you have the result with the right level of confidence, because we are trained in certifications on those topics. So basically, we are working on retail and with some fashion companies, but not just. We are not specialized in that topic, because what we've noticed is that basically carbon is very much cross-sectorial. So even if you're a retail company, some of your emissions are related to warehouse, to logistics, to the shops. So those are topics much more related to other sectors like transport, mobility, logistics. So we actually have 350 clients, and dozens of them are on retail and fashion, but not just. But we have like good enough experience in fashion to be able to work on your carbon footprint and carbon trajectory. And if you need more expertise on eco-design for some very specific topics, then we work in partners with people that are more experienced than us, because nobody has all the expertise in the world to perform a full environmental strategy in the company. The topics are just way too complex, actually. And today we are roughly 13 in the company. So we started 4 years ago, and we actually worked as a carbon consultant for the past decade already. And we decided to launch a company because we know that we all have to be much faster and much smarter together to work on that. So that's why we've built this SaaS platform, that we have hired this consulting team, and that we are working in partnerships with much more specialized companies. And that's it for my part for today.
Thank you so much, Laurent, and thanks to all our panelists for showcasing their solution and sharing their insights with us today. Now it's time for a quick Q&A session. So from the audience, feel free to ask to our guest speakers any question you may have in the question section you can find below at the bottom right. Let's see. I see someone is typing a question for you. Let me see. There should be already one question for FiliPari. Can you share any upcoming projects or collaboration that FiliPari is excited about? So I would leave the word to Alice.
Yes, thank you for the question. We are working with several brands and small maison. The sector are for apparel and for interior and lining. These are two the sectors that are most interesting in the moment in our technology. Marmor is more selected for accessories, so apparel accessories, footwear, because it's like artificial leather, so can replace artificial leather in a more sustainable way. And for the interior and lining, we are sampling with different brands with Marmor. We have our color palette, and the brand can select the color, and the color are totally natural from marble and minerals. So it's a different mindset. The brand don't select a Pantone color, but the approach is to select a natural color for their collection and create the fabric. So we are working with a textile company that produce the material using the fiber that the brand select. We can use linen, cotton, tech wool, many kind of fiber for our technology. It's up to the brand. It's very versatile, and we are very satisfied about the enthusiasm of the brand at the moment.
Thank you so much, Alice.
Thank you.
I see another question for the ID Factory, so for Martina. What do you see as the biggest hurdle for fashion brands in adopting traceability solutions?
I think that the major issue is being able to set clearly internally what is the strategy they want to pursue. Because in many cases, traceability is a broader word. It's like, I want to implement a sustainability project. You can do hundreds of different things. You want to implement a traceability project, you need first of all to understand which are your pain points. Based on your specific suppliers, define the best strategy to engage them. So that I would say this is the major issue. The first issue, not the major one, because the second one is being able to, once you have clearly defined your internal strategy, onboard the suppliers properly, engage the suppliers properly in order to collect high quality data. And we as the ID Factory try to support the brand in doing all these two activities. So we don't sell just a technology. We provide the consultancy, the training, first of all to the brand to define the strategy, and secondly to the suppliers for implementing it, the traceability process.
Thank you very much for the insight.
You're welcome.
Then next one, I see one for Laurent, so for Aktio. Can you describe a specific case where Aktio's platform helped a fashion brand make a significant reduction in their carbon footprint, and which were the main obstacles, if there were any, of course?
Okay, I have maybe two examples, one for more marketplace and second one for a fashion brand. The first one was a marketplace of Vestiaire Collective, which is basically a second-hand marketplace for fashion. They started more with luxury, and then they expanded more on affordable luxury, let's say. And basically, what we did was the first carbon footprint, so it helped identify all the emissions, especially regarding transports, because as a marketplace, you're moving a lot of goods. You're not manufacturing them, but you're moving them, and it helped identify how they had to reorganize their logistics and how they should, on their user experience, promote more local to local exchange of fashion products rather than having, a bag being moved from the US to Europe, because in your user experience, you don't show first the closest inventory pieces. So that's one part, and there was a second part on that, which was regarding the optimization of packaging to stop plastic and reduce the volume of packaging. So there was one example regarding fashion, and then there's a second one. Maybe it's a French sunglasses brand. Basically, what we have is they have 100 shops, so there's a full stream of comparing across hundreds of shops the emissions of the different buildings. So that's one part, so that you identify best practices and you engage the different shop owners to have concrete reduction actions. And regarding more the product, it helped compare basically for glasses you have like the plastic and then the glass. And you had the possibility to compare suppliers on different technology of plastic used with a significant increase. I don't recall if it's 30 or 40% decrease per kilogram, depending on the type of plastic that you're using or the type of resin. To be more specific, it's not always plastic. So this platform helped compare suppliers and change the sourcing regarding, let's say, one of the two main elements of their component of their product. Actually, I have a third example, which is on they are producing textile and basically they are buying the different fabric and they're putting them together, and then it's made into bags, notably. And basically, they have the factory, so they have all the logistics going in and out. They have all the different type of cotton, bio cotton, etc., being purchased, and they have all the energy consumption. And so, with the platform, we could have the vision on seeing what is the balance between the costs and the distance of the different suppliers, so that does it make sense to pay more to have a supplier with a different logistic where the carbon emissions is lower. Typically, it depends if you're using road or ships. Ships are much more efficient than trucks, for instance. And they could also compare the different suppliers regarding the cotton supply, because you had different suppliers on cotton with different carbon footprints. So that's just a few examples. I can provide more if needed.
Thank you so much, Laurent, for sharing with us these interesting use cases. I don't see any further question. If from the audience we don't have any other question, I want to thank you all for being here with us today. And I will leave the word to Stefano just to close, and he will share with you an invite for our upcoming events.
Okay, thank you, Francesca. So yes, as she was anticipating, I'd like to invite you, all of you, and in the chat you will find the link to subscribe to this event that TMP is organizing. Is part of a series called The Stories of Tomorrow. It will be a live event that will be in Milan. The name of the event is Come costruire un futuro sostenibile, that in English is How to Build a Sustainable Future. The event will be on the 20th of June, that is a Thursday. It will be in the morning from 8:30 to 10:30. So we hope to see you there. But please, again, subscribe to the link in the chat. And just to end up this really interesting event, I want to thank you all the people who attend, and all our panelists. Thank you again. And on my side, that's it. Thank you everyone for joining us today.